13 million adult Americans polled said they had a near-death experience. We'll tell you everything you need to know about near-death experiences as we speak with someone who faced this eye-opening event firsthand, along with experts from the leading organizations in near-death research. Call the doctor tonight at 7 on WVIA-TV.
Science has studied near-death experiences for more than 20 years, but are they real? Is there a logical explanation for them? We have a panel of experts and they're ready to discuss near-death experiences. That's our topic as we're set to go live or call the doctor right now.
Well, no, they're
not just anecdotal stories. I mean, I've read a bunch of them where, and Dr. Long, please correct me if you remember this one. A lady had the out-of-body experience and there was a shoe down the road somewhere, and there's no way she could have known that. And when she got better, she went out there, and sure enough, that was there where she said it was going to be. So, and it's not just one story.
Well, there's many stories, and as far as the Blackmore book says that was not. That was in the national news. That was huge news. I remember when that hit the news. But again, I didn't investigate that. But Blackmore, in her book, said it had been looked at and it had not been. Okay,
Renee, and then back to Dr. Long. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think there are some. There's an older case of Michael Sabom and also a more recent case with a study by Penny Sartori. What they did was that many people, they would like to say that they observed their own resuscitation, and this was at a time when they were clearly clinically dead after the 10 to 20 seconds when the brain becomes completely inactive. And what they did a control group, both of them, and especially in the study of Sartori, she asked people who did not have a near-death experience if they remember their resuscitation, and when they would describe it, it would be completely incorrect. When then compared to the NDEers, their descriptions, as Long is explaining, were correct, completely correct. So you have a control group, and I guess without getting to the X's, I mean, this is as scientific we can get right now. I think that is pretty clear that these people are experiencing something that's real, something that's not a hallucination of something unreal.
Hey, let me get back. I need to bring you in here. First of all, your book, I read it. It's The Light Behind God, and it's an interesting book. And what you try and do, basically in this book, is take the parallels of what's happening in near-death experience research, or in the case studies of what these people experience and say they're experiencing going through. And then you try to draw parallels between that and not any one religion, but spirituality overall, if you will. So can you give me a summary of that?
Yeah, basically some researchers have suggested that the near-death experience is a neutral donor to religion. So one of the conclusions from that is that if you, for instance, would have a Christian near-death experience, it would have Christian elements, where if you find a near-death experience in a Buddhist culture, you would have Buddhist conditioning in that experience. So clearly, because we're talking about possibility of life after death, and clearly when you see these experiences, I mean, it sounds like and it looks like what religion is talking about. So I'm trying to build that bridge, and most research is being done within the NDE terminology. It has its own terminology. And so what I was trying to do is to reframe it. So what I've done in this study is I have, one of the surprising findings for me, for instance, what most people, like Dave, he describes the light, and this is something that most people experience. About 70% who have near-death experience have this experience of seeing this bright light of warmth and love. And so what I try to rate, what is the most common element of the core of the experience, and here I actually find that the light only came in second, because I gave people the choice of what relates most. The highest score with 80% was the terminology God. And the reason for that, I think, is that relates back to what David was trying to say, is that this experience it's hyper real. It's an otherworldly experience, and like Long was referring to, he found 70%, 75% they had this strong sensation. That's the same I found in my study, that more than 80% they actually said that the sensation of the experience was 50 times stronger than any sensation we know here on Earth. And so when you ask an experience of why do you think this experience is real, it's because a dream, a hallucination, an illusion, a delusion, it doesn't have that powerful sensation, and that's really, I believe, that's the convincing power of the experience.
One of my degrees, I have a degree in business administration. The other degree I have is in theology. And I always make the joke I got 2 degrees because one I wanted to learn how to earn a living, and the other one I wanted to learn the loopholes to it. But with that said, one of my first questions, and you answered this straight up in the book, is a lot of Christians, and myself included, would say, well, wait a minute. isn't this, you know, the old Satan playing the joke? Because that, you know, after all, he masquerades as light. In fact, Dr. Long, when you did the interview with Bill O'Reilly back in February 2010, somebody quoted, or somebody commented after that and said, you know, the vast majority of these near-death experiences are deceptive in nature. How would you answer that from, I guess, the religious side of it?
I think, I mean, when we talk about the light masquerading as the devil, basically, I mean, we're talking about false prophets, and the Bible talks about that. The Bible, Jesus tells us that how you will know false prophets is by their fruits you shall know them. And so what we find in the research is that most people, they experience what's called life-altering experiences after having the experience, called after effects. So most people, this is 80 to 90%, they will report that after the experience they become more loving, they become more forgiving, they could become more compassionate. Exactly what you read in the Bible. They actually gain these qualities and they change their life direction because of it. It's a very transformative, very powerful experience. And they actually, the fruits of the experience, by their fruits you shall know them, is a testimony that this is something real, that this is something that is really, he said it was very warming, it was very loving, it was very kind. So that is really what it is.
I'm going to throw that question at David and then both to Dr. Long and Dr. Cannon. David, did you find that? Did you find out that after your experience, your life had changed?
Extremely so. It's in fact, after the experience, you are faced with a number of challenges because you've just faced something otherworldly that has rocked your world, and now you have to somehow integrate that into your life. And many times you want to exemplify the love and the truth that you found in that, and our society doesn't respect that. And so you are challenged to live your life by what you've learned in these experiences, and it's very difficult. In fact, the minute you try to speak about it, many times you're ridiculed. I have experiencers in my support group that were actually ostracized from their church. Some were put on medication. And so we immediately go into protective kind of environment. So one of the reasons I have a support group is to create a safe environment where experiencers can share their experience so that they can healthily integrate these experiences. When you have a large portion of our population that is actually underground, not speaking about it publicly, I believe that we're not helping this portion of our population.
Dr. Long, you found that as well in your research. In fact, it's one of your 9 lines of proof is the after effects of what happens to people after their near-death experience. Please explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just what we're hearing, the great majority of near-death experiencers have substantial changes in their life. Both retrospective and prospective studies have shown these changes include an increased desire for loving relationships, decreased desire to live their life materialistically. They may have an increased belief in God, belief in afterlife. We see that over and over in the accounts that we have. It's not easy, as we've heard, for near-death experiencers to integrate such a profound experience, especially if they've encountered God and that overwhelming sense of love, typically the thing they felt on earth. In fact, on the average, it takes near-death experiencers about 7 years to fully integrate their experience and make their life changes and fully manifest after effects.
Well, it's not logical to me, David, what you just said. You said people were ostracized, kicked out of church. Dr. Long, you mentioned in your book, page 18, the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life shows 74% of Americans believe in life after death. Religion tries to address that. So here you say, in your experience, wait, there's life after death, and they kick you out.
Yes.
That's not logical.
It isn't logical, and that's why it creates fear within experiencers.
I mean, shouldn't they be jumping up and down and saying, my religion, I don't know of any religion that doesn't teach life after death.
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of the goal, right?
You should jump all over it, yeah.
Live a good life now, and you'll be, have a good life in heaven or wherever, however you explain it in your religion. So then you have a person that says, wait a minute, I experienced that, and says, no, that's not right. That's not logical.
Yeah, it's because I think the problem or the challenge here is that the near-death experience it bursts both the scientific dogma or paradigm, and it also bursts the religious dogma and paradigm, and that's basically also the argument I'm trying to make here, that it's neutral. It's a neutral experience, and then you can put your interpretation upon that. And I think what Dave was trying to explain there is that you can't really grasp the experience. The experience is really, once they leave their body and they have this really expansive experience, then when they come back to the body and the mind has to interpret what really happened, it's too much information. So in a way you could say God is greater than what we can conceive. I mean, even that is in the Bible, and that's really the experience they have. They just can't. They can't really say. So what we try when we come back, we try to understand it. We try to find language that can interpret it. So if our background is Christian, we use terminology from the Bible. If we have another background, we will use that terminology. So we try to put language is really a tool to try to explain something that is really beyond explanation. It's beyond language.
And I appreciate that explanation, but then you're going to come back with every religion thinks that they're the right religion.
Yeah, that's our problem.
Which makes sense. Otherwise, you wouldn't belong to it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be whatever religion I am if I didn't think it was right. I'd be searching for something else. But,
I think we can approach that either with a either-or logic, or we can approach it with a both-and logic. So my religion is true, but there are also elements of truth in other religions, and that's instead of having this either-or where we end up in a conflict, we can embrace both can actually have truth in them. I think that is less divisive than this other either-or logic.
Okay, what we're going to do. Okay, the two books again. I apologize, we're out of time already. Evidence of the Afterlife by Dr. Long. If you'd like to pick that up, it's a good read. Also, The Light Behind God by Renee Jorgensen, and Dave Bennett. You have a book out, Voyages of Experiences, Voyages of Purpose. I'm sorry, and we have that for you. I'd like to thank our panel members for joining us. Please join us next week for another informative Call the Doctor.